This is lesson 3, and it again goes back to the people who are trying to ignite the same fire as is on the sun here on this earth. A fire that's known to be 1,000,000 miles long. A fire that would then extend beyond the moon 4 times. So what happens with their gamble is very, very important to us all, because we can be easily incinerated by their atomic fire. They claim the sun, has all kinds of fantasies and delusions, and that they created so they could say, "We know," but they don't know. They're completely wrong, and it's completely fantasy, and we've already went through that some. But let's go ahead and do the rest of it, just for the sake of it. So we know the sun, or whatever is fuel inside the sun, 94 million miles from us, is on fire. You can call it whatever you want to, but what we feel on this earth is heat, and that heat is clearly like a candle fire. Who knows how many times bigger. So anyway, point being, their claim is that the sun it has a very hot core. It's the hottest part of the sun, but of course that doesn't make any difference. That's completely foolish, because if it was, it could not. Here we have a core. So if that core is the hottest part of the sun, then everything beyond that core is hot too. In other words, there's no law of thermodynamics involved. None. Because there's no explanation for why the candle flame doesn't rise, so to speak. Anyway, if it was on fire, if it was as hot as they said, there would be no supernova event or exploding sun event. Because if there was, supernova means that we can clearly see by a supernova that is more fuel is involved, because that's what makes the fire bigger. If you don't add more fuel, you don't get a bigger fire. You know that. And so we know that more fuel is involved. And if all the fuel is involved to begin with, it cannot create a bigger fire. So we have to have a situation where this is a controlled, regulated fire. A certain amount of fuel is consumed by the sun fire, and a certain amount of fuel is not consumed by the sun fire until a supernova event occurs. So we know that it is not on fire. There's no possibility that the core is on fire. There's no possibility that a sun could survive any length of time if it was on fire, and it's just absolute fantasy. And they claim that there is, what they call a graviton, what is it, 15 times heavier than lead. It's all just a lie. To support their claim that, the university is God and the university gets to do whatever it wants to, and you can't have any say at all in what they do, because they lie and they cheat, such as is the, various projects around the world claiming that, well, it's just going to be a few times more, it'll be great. But the science is that a nuclear fire is 4 million times more. Or, a candle flame becomes 62 miles high. A candle flame becomes 62 miles high. So anyway, what does happen is that the outer surface of the sphere is vacuumed up into the flame. The flame makes the rock or so disintegrate and shatter into smaller pieces, and as it gets closer to the fire, that shatters and becomes smaller pieces, and the end result is that it comes down to atoms in a 1,000,000-mile long flame, and the atoms bump into each other and rub each other, and that causes the heat, and that causes the fire. And what happens is that it goes in and out, is dependent upon how close the fire is. And what we do know is that this is an action. The heat that we get is an action. It's a kinetic energy off of the sun, and that means there's a reaction. and of similar dimensions, and that reaction compresses the sun, kind of like a compressor in a freezer does. You compress the fluids in there, push out the heat, and by pushing out the heat, you get cold. So the sun regulates itself not only by how much fuel it allows to be vacuumed up into the fire, but by how much pressure is placed upon the sphere that is the sun. And that pressure controls how hot it gets. And that pressure also, these are, back to a ball on a string. You spin it around and around, and without the string, the ball just flies off. So we have to have an alternate force, a separate force, holding it in. And that's the neutron, or the dark energy, which is a neutron. So we know that is what that's going on there. And the reality is that the kinetic energy goes that way, and the non-kinetic energy goes this way, back into the sun. And that neutron that is released is what creates solar gravity. It's the fire that creates the gravity. That's how it is, and there is no other excuse. So, given that, we understand that the people who are trying to ignite fire, saying they got it all under control, it's just gravity that will extinguish the fire. We don't have to think about it. The arrogance is beyond comprehension. It's beyond comprehension. Arrogance is yes, I can. Apathy is no, you can't. And disrespect means I don't give a damn about what you say or do or what happens to you. It doesn't matter to me. That's what disrespect is. But then they also go to every part of university is wrong. And we go to evolution and the claim that it's just all chaos that created us. But chaos doesn't create anything complex. It takes apart everything that's complex and makes it simple. They have chaos in their brain. They became simple. So anyway, there's nothing about your body that is less than complex and less than thought created and less than is a value to every part of your existence. Everything that we value, everything that is of value, everything that we can do, everything is dependent upon nature, and there is no other excuse. There is no other lie. There is no nothing to deny that. Everything is about what we are as, and what our body is. And genetics build our body. It builds every part of life, and they're completely destroying that. You see, here is the sun, so to speak. They believe they can control the fire by bringing it here to this earth and igniting it here in one ignition, and that's all it takes, because if it doesn't go out, the same thing that is on the sun is here, incinerating you. So you can see the arrogance, the apathy, the disrespect is complete, but evolution is the same. And if they can't see one, they can't see another, then we look at what they're doing with genetic research. And genetic research is well, let's just look at the genome itself. And the propaganda is that, well, we're just a little bit different than monkeys. Well, we're not. Here is you may or may not be able to see it. Here is their claim of a genome. Their claim of why, what they're going to do and how they're going to do it. And over the next 10 years, they expect to get this much more data. And this is 100 million gigabytes. That's a billion bytes of data. 100 million for each one of these little dots. Each one. That's how much they think they're going to get over data over the next 10 years or so. And that's only, of course, with AI. Because humanity cannot do it. So we're going to depend on AI to reconstruct our DNA. And of course, COVID proved that they fully intend to reconstruct all of your DNA. They intend to play God. They intend to prove they can be God. They intend to take over life on Earth. They are the most insane people who have ever lived on the planet throughout all of history. A snail is more smart than they are. And of course you can say, well, they made a few improvements, didn't they? And okay, let's go with plant genetics, because that's their big reward. That's their big thing. And plant genetics are, the reality is that they have made advancements in that, made increases in yield is what their advance is, by removing all of the defenses of the seed. They remove all the defenses of the seed. They remove all of the, make it sterile so that it doesn't have to spend any kind of energy on recreating the next generation. And the end result is that they control everything. And they open the door to a disease, a pandemic disease in plant that will completely destroy our ability to live. That's the price of being wrong. That's their genetics in fact. So this is important to you too. Not because I say so. I don't want you to believe me. Do not believe me. Believe in the evidence. Search the evidence. Question your leaders. And of course the cult can't question this leader. That's because propaganda says that it cannot. They have to be right. And that's of course what the courts say. Genetics, are entirely about the university, and the university gets to decide everything. Well, the university does not get to decide everything. And whether we let them play with our genetics, whether we let them ruin our nature, whether we let them ignite the same fire as is on the sun here on this planet, whether we let them, indoctrinate every child into believing that the evolution is their religion and you have to believe their religion, and they have a book, so you have to believe their book, or any of it. Any of it. All of it is wrong. Take a look at your body. Take a look at your fingers. You want a robot hand? Some people say yes. But you can't touch with that. You can't feel with that. It's not your body. Your body. You don't own it. You own your body. It's yours. And you're not dependent upon somebody else to decide. But of course, the entire genetic catastrophe that is going on means that you don't get to decide. You don't get to decide. They decide for you. They play God for you. They say that we are God. You are the slave. We don't care about what happens to you. We only care about what happens to us. And of course, they have genetic material there at universities to prove that they can kill you. They can kill you, because they have the genetic materials to do it. And of course we all know that humanity can't resist the idea that we have to do what we can do. We have to do it. As is, there were in the 50s there were 2,000 nuclear bomb explosions, but of course didn't know about that. But there were, and of course there's thousands of things that the universities do, that people do, that men do to create war. Then they get focused on one little thing and they decide, well, yeah, that'll be it then, and the monkeys follow. So the deal is that you have to grow up. You have to think for yourself. That's the purpose of this. Think for yourself. Identify what evidence it is that you can depend upon. Learn a little bit about what is or is not true. A little bit about what is or is not true. And the cost of being wrong. The cost of being wrong with sunfire is take a look at the sun. Go out there in the summertime and get your skin burned from 94 million miles away. And they want to bring that here. They've been trying to bring that here for the last 10 years or so, and they've come very close. So ignition means that they find out if or not the earth is completely lost and every life is dead, incinerated, because that's the price of being wrong. The price of being wrong with human genetics is that there is no life worth living anymore. Everything Everything that we depend upon is dead. Everything. That's the price of being wrong. And they say because of evolution, well, chaos built life, so we don't have to care. We can inject chaos into it, and evolution will build us something else. Well, it will build you something else. It'll build you death. Everything is gone. Everything is exterminated. Everything is extinct. Everything is what the university does. Play with. It's their toy. Because you can't be God if you can't prove that you can do something. And they want to be God. So, you need to wake up. You need to accept redress as our solution, our legal solution. You can't go over there and as an army and just kill them all. That won't work. You have to use the courtroom and inform the court that we're taking over. It's our right as a nation, this USA. Redress is our solution to democracy, to protecting our democracy. It is our choice.